Hey, this is CANDIA RAQUEL, and you are at the Sensual Sessions Podcast, the place to explore sensing pleasure through your senses and moving yourself in a way that is completely free from inhibition and full of your self expression. If you haven't already, please subscribe to get these episodes delivered on your inbox weekly at www.centraldepoder.com. And today we have a very special guest. This is Jonathan Bender. He has been coaching for over 25 years. He is an author, an actor, and a public speaker. Welcome, Jonathan. I'm very happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I met Jonathan at a Zoom breakout room where we all started talking. And he was like so chill, but not too relaxed. And he was like focused and like, so we were all distracted all over the place. And I saw how all the little windows from the breakout rooms turned their attention to him. And I was wondering, wow, I need to invite him to the Sensual Sessions podcast to tell us how does he do that? Like, how can he captivate the attention and simultaneously have a good time? And then I discovered like he's a pro exactly on that. So, Jonathan, can you tell us a little bit about how you got to this level of mastering, talking, sharing, interacting with
Sure.
the world?
I've been doing it my whole life. um,
Your
I
whole
mean,
life.
well, since I was a teenager, I've been speaking, I've been acting, doing theater, directing. So I'm in theater. I'm a director, actor, writer, solo performer, developer of solo performances. I have graduate degrees in both theater as well as Master of Science in Communication and Performance Studies. And so then doing speaking since a young age as well as coaching it for a very long time now. And it's important to know I did not start off in any way confident or talented or well spoken. I did so out of a deep desire to be seen, to have a level of self-expression from a difficult childhood, like many of us I think can resonate with, where I did not feel like I had a voice.
Okay.
So for me, it was stepping into probably what was hardest for me. And I also was on a spiritual path as well from the age of 14. So the spiritual and personal growth work is a big part of me. And I developed over time the WholeSpeak Method, which is a whole person approach to how we show up, whether that's in public speaking, in a meeting, or just simply in your life. And I view public speaking, and when I say public speaking, really that could be a networking event, showing up with a client or on a consultation, and certainly a webinar or live speaking engagements in person. I view that and this work as a path of transformation. Not that there's anything wrong with you or that you have to change it, but how do we become more of who we are and to bring that out into the open?
Yes, how we become more of who we are and bring that into the open. Definitely, many of us have not been listened, witnessed, seen, and another big bunch of us have even been silenced. And it's very important what you say on voicing your who you are, expressing freely, and doing that in a way that is coming from a place of sincerity, place of truth. So I wonder what's the main thing that gets in the way from self-expression.
So, on one level, you might call it contraction.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is there's some overall contracting withholding of our being, and that can happen through our beliefs. It can happen through trauma and the constriction where we don't feel free to just simply open, to able to share. And there's a lot of reasons for that. So For example, one of them is that people think that they somehow should be good at speaking and showing up, but there's really an art and a science to it. And this is something that I've established over the years, is that it's not happenstance. It's not, oh, I just need to I should be able to do it. It's that you have to learn how to show up when being fully open in your power, in your center, in your heart. And there are a series of skills to learn to be able to do that in a very organic, real way. That's not a kind of a contrived methodology where you see, sometimes I see speakers who've been trained by someone in particular. And if you see three people in a row trained by the same person, you start to see the technique and hear it, and it looks weird and fake. And instead, it's what I call organic speaking. Just how do we show up when we are fully open, ready to be seen? We're open with our vulnerability, self-accepting, and more.
Yes, coming forth as who you are in the world at this edge of uncertainty that is the present, and even more when a bunch of people is looking at you and will potentially judge you. But it's very different to come as you are, as a song of Nirvana, than actually bringing your technique as a sort of armor and as and a sword, and showing that to the people. Because, well, first of all, in terms of practical results, it's something that gets in the way between the connection between two and the person. And you say something very important, that we may think, I have to do this good, like I have to comply with this task and like talk in a good way. But that's the outcome. It's not a plain raw action that you do, like, okay, stand up. It's not a stand up. You need to know how to talk in order to have the outcome. And I feel that in many ways, being so obsessed with the outcome gets in the way of actually getting it, because we don't run through the process that would eventually lead us to that. And you talk about talking with your heart, with your presence, with power, and learning about it. So what do you see are like the ramifications in life areas of learning how to voice your inner self? Like, how does this affect positively or negatively other areas in your life? Or what is what you have seen with your clients, like the
Sure.
before and after talking
So
through?
first of all, the way that I look at this work is that although people often want to dive into it because they have a business need, they're asked to speak, they're turning down speaking engagements, they're not showing up, they're not really opening, like doing what they want to do, or they're afraid to share their message because of some fear of judgment or of what's going to happen. And it could be based on trauma or something happened in the past. Sometimes they don't know why. It's just very vulnerable. And so when we do this work, what I call my not so secret agenda is that it's going to change your whole life. And it does. So, for example, I had one client some years ago who was a very petite woman, and she was in construction management and needed to speak in front of those big construction workers and be out on the scaffolding and go out and tell them what to do. And she had a very high, small voice. And like, how do I change this? What do I do here? So one of the things that I do, because I bring in performance technique, is help someone have a full resonant voice, not like deep or manly, but full resonant. And when it resonates more in your body, then it resonates in other people. And there's a depth and breadth to it. I hear all the time people, oh, I love your voice. Well, that's because I've trained. And honestly, it took me a long time to learn it. And the things that I learned in a very long period of time, I shortcut so someone can become really powerful in a few months. So with this client, when I was working with her, she did have that resonant voice. Now, there's also a correlation between what is happening someone with both their emotional center, with their body, with their energy. So often if someone has a high voice, they're not in their hara, their lower dantian, or their power. Sorry, there's a weird test happening in my phone. I think it was a nationwide broadcast or something. So with her, that she wasn't in her power, in her center. And what happens when we start to have someone like drop into the fullness of their resonance, they actually start to drop into their lower chakras, into their power, and to find themselves in a new way. And for her, it brought back memories of an abusive mother. And she realized that she never processed this, where she constantly had to walk on eggshells and step out of her power. But when we did this work and she dropped into herself,
Wow.
she was in tears saying, like, I see how I've been giving away my power for my whole life, and I'm never going to again. And it wasn't just a knowing, it was the way that she showed up in her whole body and being. Of course, it had a different professional impact. She was able to show up and be able to have that voice and have that commanding presence she wanted, but it also changed her entire life. Now, I also hear from clients things like, oh, I'm not just a better speaker, I enjoy going to parties more.
Wow.
That people start to feel more comfortable working with others. I also have a body of work around connection. So the connection and presence work that's embedded within the speaking training that I do is that we start to circulate energy differently. We receive others. And part of connection is also intention. So this is something that you spoke to a little bit earlier, where like, oh, well, if I'm just trying to force or make something happen, and you're showing up with the wrong intention.
Yes.
And so the intention has to be aligned. And so it's freeing, it's open, it has room for the other person. And the other thing I just wanted to throw in there, because it was a different phrase than I used before, but it came up when you were speaking, is that my belief overall, rather than having like this formulaic thing you have to do, what we're really doing through the WholeSpeak method is we're activating your aliveness.
Activating your aliveness. Yes. Yes. Because that aliveness is conveyed through your message, through your voice, through your speaking. Because in a way, like, I feel that when we are speaking, we are like very naked. Like, if your voice trembles, if you start to talk like this, and your whole past and your projections of the future will come forth. So, like, there's no way to hide when you are talking. Like, even if you have trained, if you have used this training as something to become shield, then it's of no use, and the communication is not going to happen. And I'm loving how paying attention on how you are talking and voicing can reveal very deep things about yourself that may even uh, get in the way of living a full life. Like with this client, I get the sensation that maybe she was really really trapped when she was little with her abusive mom, and standing in her power and voicing her true self and needs and wants and desires would might actually put her in danger, because the abusive mother might see her as a competition or a challenger or whatever, and like she could get like even kicked out of the house. And the thing is that one thing is the past, and one thing is, and a different thing is to drag the past into the present, because she was operating in the past frame that never got to mature or to.
That's right. That's true, but that's what everyone does.
That's what
And
everyone does.
and I work very somatically. So I say the body is a report card of past activities, and so are our thoughts. Unless we are taking conscious action to deconstruct and change that. And so presence is incredibly important. So because when we are, the more we are fully present, The more we are available for whatever needs to arise in the moment. Now, of course, you also, if you're speaking, want to have a plan for what you're going to say, and yet that has to meet the present moment so that we can respond to the moment, to be able to pivot, to make changes, and have that arises through connection and through this present aliveness. And that's something people often think that you have presence or you don't. And no, it's not something that you can develop. And for me, it overlaps as well with this spiritual aspect of presence.
Yes, yes, presence and awareness that is rooted from yourself, from being in connection with your true self. And I see that a lot of people have a particular problem when voicing pleasure. Like, okay, finally the person got to stand in her power and talk to the construction workers, or take a stand at the board meeting, or set the boundaries with the beloved. But because that, in a way, it seemed like empowerment, and it's applauded. And also, like, voicing our complaints and pains, and like, that's therapeutic. But I see a huge challenge to voice pleasure, like, uh, to to really make sounds of delight, or ask for things that will make you feel good. What's your take on this?
So I think that the way you use pleasure is very similar to how I use aliveness. And also there's this strong embodied or somatic component to that. And the same thing as presence. So I always look at things holistically. So is that speaking is an embodied act. It's not
Yeah.
something, it's not telepathy. And the more that we are fully present in our bodies and that aliveness and this presence, it's very juicy. And people
Yes,
can feel that
yes,
energy.
yes,
So, so again, I'm very somatically trained and incorporate the somatics into the work that I coach. This aliveness that comes out, and I'll speak specifically also the way that I teach vocal work and diction is as one of the frames that I use is as a sensual act.
yes.
So, so the other things that we do with a mouth, like we eat, we kiss, and why can't speaking be that delicious as well? So
Yeah.
there's a retraining that I do about how to feel the energy of your lips and the words that you say. And then when you feel that, then people feel that as well through mirror
Well,
neurons.
yeah. Well, blown away. I got a sense, a full sense of this embodied talking, because like there is so much information in our mouth. Like, it's a matter of life or death to clearly distinguish what's going on in your mouth, like by the food that you're eating. It's like one of the first actions that we made when we arrived here was eating. And like, the tongue is a super muscle, a super organ, and we have so much space, and it's resonant. And the throat goes all the way deep to our vertebral column, and it's like we can breathe through the mouth. And yeah, fantastic. So would you share with us an exercise to connect with our sensual voice, to be more comfortable voicing pleasure?
Sure. So I'll give a piece of context in that when I teach it, there's really three components. The first is the breath, the second is the vowels, and the third is the consonants.
Okay.
And so I'm going to do the consonants, but as a piece of context, most people don't breathe diaphragmatically, but even if they do, it's not connected with the voice. There's the consonants and some other ways that we have that connected and start to work with resonance. And and so there's a lot I can say there, but if we go right to consonants,
Yes.
so every letter that we say has a unique feeling, an emotional feeling and a physical feeling. So if we can try a few letters now and just like and notice notice how they feel. Notice the vibration. So if we say and encourage anyone listening to do this on your own, so we go,
mm,
and
mm,
really with a, and we'll always make this long, feel the vibration. So the
mm.
letter M, when we really extend it, like it's very yummy.
Yes.
So
Mm.
let's do two more. So let's do the letter T. Ta, ta,
Ta,
ta.
ta, ta.
And so that has a very different energy to it.
Yes.
And so it's also unvoiced, meaning there's no ha sound with it. The voiced version would be duh,
Yeah.
duh, which
Yeah.
has a very blunt duh sound, very different feel. And let's do one more. If we do the letter F and really extend it and press hard your teeth on your lower lip. Ah, ah,
Like a mad cat
right. That has a very different feeling
feeling.
and
Yeah. Feeling.
right.
Wow.
So let me point out that these letters are the building blocks of words. And when you start to incorporate the feeling of every letter, the sensuality of it, the energy of it, the words themselves start to take on more meaning, more power,
Yes.
and other people feel you speaking in a
Yes.
very profound way.
Yes. 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 Other people feel you speaking because you are feeling yourself speaking. Wow. Mm. I am delighted with this. I'm gonna be mm, all the day long because it it's not just a mouth thing. You can feel the resonance in your whole body. And I even feel that I am talking differently now. My shoulders are different. And yeah, I feel more comfortable to say that I am enjoying talking, voicing voicing the experience.
That's awesome. Let me say too, like this is like this much of a holistic methodology. And what's important to know that some people think, "Oh, I should be able to speak like I mentioned before, or I just have to know what to do." It's really about creating new habits that become part of you. And with any like habit building methodology, it's just a couple of things at a time, practicing it, experimenting. What is this like? And then doing habit stacking, where you stack other habits on top of those. And with that, this idea of public speaking really becomes a series of micro skills that slowly add up into being a powerful skill set that take time to learn. So my advice for anyone who wants to show up with greater aliveness and presence and confidence, both the inner work, actually, because there's a lot of things that go on there that I teach, as well as the outer skills, take the time to learn it so that you have a skill set for the rest of your life.
Yes. In a way, what you're saying is that we become the skill. It's not that I have the skill of public speaking. I become a public speaker. And it's not that I only talk when I am on stage at the TED Talk. No, it's like how I delight with after I don't know, a piece of chocolate. So it's the embodiment of your voice and your self-expression. And I believe this is fundamental for everyone, actually. So, Jonathan, tell us, how can we learn more?
So there's a few things that you can do. First of all, you can go to wholespeak.com and you can see the resources there. WHOLE, like whole, and then speak.com. So that's where my main website. A couple of other things is that if you want to show up consistently every time and be strong from the start, I've just put together a new speaker's holistic warm up. And you can basically get a checklist of what you need to do to be able to show up strongly. So, this is a free gift I'm happy to offer. I'll also say for someone who really, really wants to become a speaker, or if you're like so afraid of it or hesitant about it or avoidant that you're like, oh, I know I should. Well, I'd say take away the should and get a real training. Mine's called Claim Your Voice. And I've had about 500 some people take it. It's very powerful. I hear over and over, you said it was going to be transformational, and it really, really was. So you can see that at claimyourvoicenow.com if you want to get some information and join us.
Claim Your Voice Now, and the main website is?
Yeah, claimyourvoicenow.com. The full course title is Claim Your Voice, Speak with Power and Presence.
Speak with Power and Resonance. Thank you so much, Jonathan. This has been a pleasure, a vocal pleasure.
Thank you for having me. It's been great to share.
And sensualist, remember to go and take the time to sense your fire so you can share your flame. And if you haven't already, grab the free guide to awaken sensuality at www.centraldepoder.com. Catch you next time.